All right, we're here to talk about this Excronix Saber for David of the Saber Museum. This is one of two that came to me. Actually, it's one of four that came from Chris Royal for David, but of the four, two were like Saber Forge assemblies that Chris did. And then these two, as I understand it, were from Excronix. Now, I'm not familiar wholly with who Excronix is, like the person behind it, their ethos and all that. But these appear to be similar to those Saber Forge, assembled from multiple pieces like Saber Forge asp, and then, you know, custom like cut. Like this is a baffle, custom cut piece here, a bunch of different things. And this is one of two from Excronix, so I'll mention a couple things with both of them. But right off the rip, there are a number of set screws that are decorative and or functional. On this particular one, I managed to redo, like reuse a different thumb screw to make it the blade retention. The other one has a set screw. This one did come, I don't know if this is auto-focusing well enough, but it came with a set screw right here. And just how this was going, it just didn't make sense to me to use that. So now, because this is a fully removable chassis design, you only have to undo the pommel here, and you only ever have to use this thumb screw to operate it. So one of the things that I noticed when it came to me was that, and I'll find the camera, was that there were these baffle cuts in the baffling. And so what I did when I was assembling to make this a fully removable and assemble my PCB holder for both the emitter and the switch set was to make inside there, and I'll try to use the other camera to show it off, put an actual quartz crystal in there, and in the back you can see I used some brass mesh that kind of mimics the baffling in the front here. This does come with its own blade plug from Chris. There is the blade plug. Now I did have to sand this down and then do a little bit of sanding to make sure the burrs and stuff in there didn't prevent this from sticking. And so we have a Shadowfoil. Actually, let's do this. Let's switch cameras. That's what I was intending to do. All right, down here we have a Shadowfoil neopixel emitter. Now, unlike the Shadowfoils I've been doing for these most recent installs, this just has the 16 count of pixels. So 2 rings subdivided inner and outer to do different things in the on and off state. So if we hit on, you can see that does something. Independent of the actual main blade. Same thing goes for the crystal chamber. It does its own thing in on and off states. But for the most part, the crystal and the main blade will match. There's a bunch of chassis accents that I'll show in a second. But just moving down the hilt, we have a 12mm KR duo tactile switch in black anodized, so it can kind of stay sleek. Now, I will mention again, because this does assemble in multiple pieces, I've tried to crank down on all the things that could come apart so that you don't have to. And then that way, the only thing you have to do is undo the pommel, right? Now this chassis is kind of a mix of things. Now, because this looked to me kind of Sithy, what I did was on the OLED, I put a red diffusion, like a gel, like a light gel that you can use to change colors of photography lighting, and then I just cut it to fit down in there. But yeah, we've got the pogos down in there. We've got the Shtok Rotary PCB. We've got onboard tactiles so that we can play with it while it's out. This is your main. This is your aux. On the KR Duo tactile, left is your main, right is your aux. But we've got a row of 15 count row of 2020 neopixel under a baffled greeblie with some heat staining pigments. We've got 2 Edison filaments under these grills to kind of make it look like it's an engine. They do different things in the on and off state. And then of course we've got our OLED screen. This is sporting a Proffie V3 config on the SD card, 28mm KR bass speaker, and then a high amp kill switch. This does take an 18650 rechargeable. Now, one thing I will mention is I changed my dimension. I was talking to another installer friend, and they were going over their love of designing with Keystone battery contacts and making this as tight as possible so that there's no chance that the battery will slip and momentarily disconnect. And I took that idea and said, well, if mine have ever done that, it's because I've designed this to be too loose. So I chopped off a bit of very little amount to make sure this is a super tight fit. So we do have a positive terminal clearly indicated. As always, spring side, your negative. You want to hit the flat side of your battery to the spring, nipple to the nipple. You want to put it down in ever so to where it snaps in. And then what I like to do is just rotate the battery to make sure those springs are actually touching the metal and not just the outer wrap, because now it's tighter. But you can still do the common thing that I like to do, which is smack it on your 2 fingers, you know, while you cradle, so it has a place to drop into. So again, I'm just pushing down and then snapping that down in. High amp kill switch.
We ran into some trouble on our last job.
Let's do that one more time. We can watch my boot screen come up.
Things haven't been the same since the team split up.
So this is a one of 3 Sabers for the Saber Museum. These are all going to have some new functional aspects to them that were requested. So this has Survivor Party Mode. And then, so that uses Fernando's FET263's special abilities and his prop file. This also has the Kyberphonic Power of Many bundle. Now, I've only programmed a few of the characters as presets, but the SD card comes loaded with all of the characters. So if you wanted to use them, you could just copy a preset and then edit the font on the fly if you wanted to do that. So I'll go over some of those things with it in, but let's just check out some of these things in the chassis design, and then we'll go over some of the fonts. We'll show the color changes, right? So again, this is your aux. What I have done for all of the presets is there's a name that pretty much matches the name of the font. But if it gets to like the old school characters, the OLED animations come borrowed from a pack that I've downloaded that's been made available to the public. So like, for instance, I think this one is designed by Derek Organ. But some of these will be like crystal focus animations or other I forget the other designers out there, but what I've done is loaded the common folder with a set for on, off, idle, clash, yada, yada, different states that do different animations. And then, for instance, these Acolytes uses the Derek Organ one. So it'll always look to the font folder before it looks to the common folder. So if there are no animations in the font folder, it'll use the common one. And that looks like...
Ninth Sister.
That looks like these. So these will be the default ones. So again, you turn it on, changes, does metering, different little things, reacts to clashes, just like the lights do as well. And so do the Edison filaments, right? But then, like I said, if we get to some old school...
Ezra? Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Some people have designed actual character...
Kylo Ren.
...animations for those. So, let's put it in. These take 1-inch diameter neopixel blades. So I'll throw in a demo here real quick.
Party Saber.
All right, so Party Saber is going to be the first one. And what you'll notice is I've also loaded the SD card up with the voice packs from Brian Connor. So if you want to do a thing in the off state, like check the battery or the volume, hold aux tap power.
Battery level 82%.
That's Cal. So if he's done a character, I've put those into the font folder for that character, but the default will be, I think, Starkiller.
OSHA.
So like OSHA doesn't have one yet. So if we do that same thing.
Enter volume menu.
That's the Starkiller.
Maximum volume. Volume menu end.
So anyway. So again, we're on the party mode. So these use the special abilities. Switch screens here. So these use special abilities, and that's just going to be a button combination of holding either power or aux and rotating either left or right. So on party mode, the way to get to actually party mode is to use special ability 4, which is to hold aux, the right button, and twist to the left. So
Party Saber.
we're on Party Saber. Okay, so now we're on it, all right? So hold aux and tap to the right. You'll get that little jingle sound, and now hard accent swings will change the blade color and the font and the, you'll notice the crystal will match the blade, main blade as well, but then it changes the hum as well. So that is that's just party mode. For the Acolyte, so for the Acolyte, there's only one special ability, or actually I should say 2, it's 1 and 4, but hold power and twist to the right, and you'll do the crystal bleed. Now, this is a very short blade, so let's switch screens here. So let me demo this real quick. So we'll hold power and twist to the right, and then it will start to bleed. Once it's fully all the way up the blade, now obviously with the demo blade, we're not gonna see it all the way, it'll switch. The font will change to the alternate font, and then the crystal will catch up and it'll match the main blade. So hold. So now we're different hum, different crystal. So, and if we turned off while we're still in that state, it's going to match that until we do the next special ability. So that is OSHA. That's the only one that will do it. So for the others,
Chimere?
We'll do it on.
My name is Jord Fandar, Knight of the Jedi Order.
We do the Cortosius Clash. So it's the same function, but you'll have an additional step that you have to do. I demoed this on a previous video, but we'll just show it again. So ignite the Saber. Now for Cortosius Clash, you're gonna get a sound effect for when you're in the ability to do so, and then you have 3 seconds to clash the Saber, and then it'll do all of the rest of the animation. So hold power, twist to the right. All right, that's the sound. So now it's gonna glitch off. And now it's back on. So if we don't clash within those 3 seconds, we're just back into regular mode. So special abilities are for those presets. We have a number of other fonts here. So Jackie has one. She does the same thing.
Enter volume menu. Volume menu end.
Accidentally hit both buttons there.
Master Soul.
So he'll do the same thing. Hold power to the right. So that is Cortosius Clash. So again, party mode on the first font, Crystal Bleed on OSHA. The rest of the Acolyte characters that I've programmed presets for do Cortosius Clash.
Ninth Sister.
Now we have, just for fun, another Survivor font. You've got all the other Survivor fonts on the SD card. I just don't have the characters programmed because I wanted to keep it pared down, save on space. So there's only 18 presets, all covering all of the Canon fonts and colors, as well as track player mode. If we're in horizontal, hold power for 2 seconds. Get that chime. Rotate, pick your track. Now there's a bunch of them in the common folder. And now that we have a bunch of new shows and stuff, we've got a ton more, but you just press a button and now we can move it around. However, for each preset, I've pre-programmed a soundtrack. So we'll hold the Saber upright to get that. Actually,
OSHA.
So we'll do OSHA. One of the things, David, you requested I do was the actress's Amanda Stenberg or something like that's her name. She did the violin concerto thing that you sent me. And so that is this particular OSHA font. So we'll hold it up. It's very loud too. Anyway, so those are all there, but they're all in the common folder. There's a couple of the character fonts that I actually just used all of the tracks that came from the character. So if you're doing track player mode, you maybe only get to 4 of them. So that being said, when we're ready, let's switch over here to scene 2. We can take the chassis out. Again, we'll take the blade out by the 2nd thumb screw, put our blade plug back in, and then remove the pommel. Pull our chassis all the way out and turn it off. You had mentioned that I could go kind of like a medium install to get these done quicker, but in order to do something quick, I had designed this chassis to be used in a different setup for a different client that gave me some bad dimensions as a press fit chassis. So what I did was I chopped off the nipple in my design program, designed it to take this, and then I just made sure to print both the holder and then this little speaker offset ring to fit the dimensions of this design. So I just resin printed this, painted it, and then called it good. So this is more of a full-fledged install with all the bells and whistles, right? This particular chassis, most of the time what I do is I give you gesture on controls, twist on and twist off, and then thrust on. The gesture controls on this, because we've got so many cables for all these accent features and like 4 different cables just alone for this, things got a little tight here, and I could not, for the love of trying, get around the fact that the bassy speaker basically transmitting a bunch of vibration to the chassis or to the Proffie itself was causing false ignitions. So like if you were to try to turn on with a click, even with it in the hilt or with a twist on, and you try to turn it off, it would keep resetting because the wires are all cinched real close to the bottom. It doesn't affect the overall function of the Saber itself. It was just causing gestures to false identify. And I tried some programming tricks, but since I was on a time crunch and you're in the States here, I wanted to mention that because I had to turn that off. So I did provide twist off, right? But I couldn't provide you gestures on. So there's no battle mode. Not that I think you use it anyway. So all of the functions are basically button functions. So just as if you were to use it back in the old days. So just wanted to bring that up because this will be different than any of the other Sabers I'm sending. So that being said, this particular Excronix Saber is buttons only. So when you go to do any of your clashing or lockups, you'll hold either power or aux to do that. So I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. So, right. So we can twist off, right? But you can't twist on, you can't thrust on, you have to power on. But lockups, right? If you're sideways and you want to do a melt, you know, you can do that. If you're pointed down and you want to do a drag, you can do that. So that being said, it's pretty much how you would probably use it anyway. I don't know if you're a fan of battle mode. I include it because gestures can be fun and it can make chassis that don't have buttons easier to use. But since this one does have buttons so that we can change fonts and see all the cool OLED screen effects that I demonstrated just a moment ago, I just wanted to include that. So that being said, this is the only one of the three that differs in that regard. So let's wrap this up. If you have any questions, there will be a printout with all three of the Sabers that will be coming to you. Again, all three of these will have all of the same sound fonts. There's a ton more sound fonts on the SD card if you want to play around with it. Maybe copy a preset and try a new font, switch a blade color or whatever, you can do that. But that being said, I tried to accommodate all of the requests for the new Acolyte series functions, things that are still kind of in beta, or I should say not public access on the FET263 site. So since I'm a Patreon, I could make that happen. But yeah, the previous videos and such will cover in more depth than this does. But yeah, if you have any questions, email me. And then to the customers that out there that are just watching this for fun, thanks for sticking around. And let me know in the comments if you like what you saw. And may the force be with you.